It was the middle of a bright weekday afternoon. A big box store, the lot packed. Sun straight overhead, no shade anywhere. Carts rattling, families loading trunks 2 rows over. The most ordinary public daylight place in the entire world. I felt completely safe. I wasn't thinking about anything but getting my bags in the trunk. I noticed him first at the registers, behind me in line. A lean man, narrow through the shoulders, forgettable. Ordinary clothes, ordinary cart, a few things in it. When we got to the doors, he actually held back and waved me through ahead of him, polite, a little smile. "After you." I said thanks and stepped out into the sun and didn't think about him again for about 40 seconds. Because when I was halfway out into the lot, pushing my cart toward my car, he was beside me. Not behind, beside. He'd come up on my left and match my pace, his cart rolling next to mine like we were walking out together. "Big lot, huh?" he said, friendly, easy. And I gave a tight little laugh and sped up. And he sped up exactly the same amount. "Where you parked?" he said. Just like that, casual. And my whole body knew the answer was a thing I should not give him, even while my mouth wanted to be polite. "Oh, just over here. I'm good, thanks." Vague, a wave of the hand at nothing. And he nodded like he hadn't heard the no inside it and kept rolling right alongside me. "I'll walk you. Lot like this." I stopped, just stopped pushing, in the middle of the lane between 2 parked rows, hoping he'd roll on past and I could peel away behind him. He stopped too, and he turned his cart a little, sideways, so it sat across the lane in front of me, between me and the open end of the row. Not a shove, not a grab, just a cart parked wrong, exactly where I needed to go. And him on the other side of it, smiling. "You know what? Let me just give you a ride over," he said, and he tipped his head toward the fire lane along the front of the store. There was a truck there, idling, pulled up out of a space, nose out, sitting in the lane where you're not supposed to stop. The driver's door was open, engine running, just sitting there, like it had been left exactly that way. "It's no trouble, I'm right there, hop in. I'll run you over to your car." And he said it 3 different ways in about 10 seconds. Run you over, give you a lift, save you the walk. My car was maybe 200 feet away. I could see it. He wanted to drive me 200 feet in a truck that was already running with the door open. And something in me went very cold and very quiet because I had never once in my life had a stranger ask to do that. "I'm really okay," I said, louder now, the polite gone out of it. "I'm right there." And his face did a thing I'll never forget. It didn't get angry, it got patient. The smile stayed exactly where it was, and his eyes went flat behind it, like a man waiting out a small delay. "Come on," he said softer. "Why won't you let me give you a ride?" Like I was the one being difficult. So I did the only thing I could think of. I left the cart. I let go of it, with my groceries still in it, and I went the other way, backward, around the rear of the parked cars, fast, toward the loudest, most crowded part of the lot, toward the woman loading her trunk. I walked right up to her like I knew her. "Hey, sorry, can I just stand with you a sec?" And she looked at my face and said, "Yes." And when I turned around, he had not followed me to her. He'd gone back to the truck. He was standing in the open door of it, in the fire lane, looking across the rows at me, not leaving, just watching, with the engine running, to see if I'd actually go with her or if I'd come back out alone. I stayed with her. I helped her load bags I'd never seen before. I talked too fast about nothing. And the whole time, 2 rows over, he stood half in that truck until a cart attendant came pushing a long train of carts up the lane toward him, and a car wanted past, and the lane got busy, and the open door and the idling truck stopped being invisible. And only then did he get in and pull out, slow, and go. The woman walked me to my car. I asked her to. She didn't ask why, she'd seen enough of my face. And as we crossed the lot, I told her fast what had happened. And she said the thing that's stayed with me. I thought he was your husband. From 30 feet in the sun, a man steering a woman by her own cart looked like a marriage. That's how close it was to invisible. I got in, locked it, sat there with both hands on the wheel until they stopped shaking. And I thought about the truck, nose out, door open, running, in the fire lane before he ever picked me. You don't leave a truck like that to do your shopping. You leave a truck like that when the shopping was never the point, when you went inside to find the one person you could walk back out beside, and the truck was already pointed at the exit. He never threatened me. He never touched me. He just offered me a ride, in daylight, with people everywhere, smiling the whole time. And I still think about that woman who let a shaking stranger stand beside her car and load bags that weren't hers. I didn't get her name. I think about her every time someone's a little too helpful in a parking lot now. Not him, her. She's the reason the ride ended at her trunk instead of wherever he meant it to. This one was early evening, still full daylight, summer, a regular grocery store. Bright fluorescent aisles, music over the speakers, carts, a dozen other people shopping. I'd been in that store 100 times. It is the single most boring, safe place I can think of, and nothing in it ever changed. The lights never went out, the people never left. It just slowly went wrong inside all that brightness. I noticed him in produce. A big man, heavy-set, pushing a cart by himself. No reason to clock him except that when I moved, he moved. I went to the next section. A minute later, he was at the end of it. I told myself a grocery store is small. People crisscross. Everyone's walking the same loop. Of course we kept ending up near each other, I told myself. That's what a busy store is. So I let it go. But I started testing it without meaning to. I doubled back for something I'd passed. He doubled back too. I stood a long time in front of one shelf, not picking anything, just to see. And he stopped at the far end of the aisle and stood there too, facing the shelves, not reaching for anything, until I moved. And then he came the same direction I did. And that was when I looked at his cart. Really looked. It was empty. We were maybe 15 minutes into this, long enough that I had half a cart of my own, and his was completely empty. Not a few things, nothing. A man pushing an empty cart in slow loops around a grocery store for as long as the woman in front of him keeps shopping. And I understood, standing there, that the cart was why I doubted myself for 20 minutes. Hands on a cart, he wasn't a man following a woman. He was just a shopper, going up and down like everybody else in the aisle. Everybody around us saw a guy grocery shopping. I was the only one who could see 20 minutes, not one item, because I was the only one being walked. So I stopped pretending I was shopping. I left my cart and I walked, not to the exit, not into an empty corner, straight to the registers, to the most lit, most peopled, most watched square footage in the building. And he came after me. Not fast, not obvious, but the empty cart turned up 2 lanes over, and he stood there, in line behind nothing, with nothing to buy, waiting to leave when I left. I want to be honest about what I did because it wasn't dramatic. I didn't yell. I went to the cashier, a young woman, my lane, and I said it quietly while she scanned. There's a man following me through the store. He has an empty cart. I don't want to walk out alone. And she didn't blink. She said, "I'll walk you out." She called over a bagger to cover, and she came around the end of the register and walked out those doors with me, right at my shoulder. He did not follow us through the doors. With her there, a second person, an employee, someone who'd clearly been told, the math changed, and he stayed inside, by the carts, watching us go out into the evening sun. And I thought that was it. I thought, okay, he's a creep. I lost him. It's over. We stepped out into the parking lot, bright, half full, normal. And the cashier slowed down. Because I'd parked near the doors, like you do. And as we walked to my car, she said, "Careful. Is that your truck? The one watching us?" And I said, "What truck?" And she pointed all the way across the lot to the far side of the building. The other entrance, the bare, half-empty end where almost nobody had parked. The opposite end from where anybody on his loop would have come. One truck out there, alone, nose out, pointed right at the doors we just come through. His. The cashier stood with me while I got in and locked the doors. She watched the truck the whole time. It didn't move while she was there. A person standing next to me, a witness in daylight, and he just sat in it, nose out, engine off, not willing to do the next thing with her watching. I told her thank you in a voice that didn't work right. She said, "Don't come back here for a while," and went back inside to her register, and the doors closed behind her. And the second she was gone, the second I was a woman alone in a car again, the truck's lights came on. I did not wait to find out the rest. I pulled out fast and I drove the wrong way home, a long loop, watching the mirror, and I did not see him behind me, which is not the same as him not being there. I just stopped being able to see him. That's where it ended for me. Not with an answer, with me losing him on purpose. He hadn't come to the store to shop. He'd come to the store because I was in it. I know that now in a way I'll never be able to unknow. But the thing I actually hold on to isn't him. It's a young cashier who didn't blink when a stranger said, "There's a man following me," who just came around her register and walked me into the sun. I never even got her name. I think about her a lot more than I think about him. This was late afternoon, still broad daylight, running errands. A strip of stores, a busy road, everything open, everyone out. I'd stopped in somewhere for 10 minutes, in and out, and the only reason I remember the man at all is that he made my skin crawl for a second by the door. And then I forgot him, because what is a man by a door? It's daylight. There are 40 people. You forget him. I got in my car and pulled out and drove off to do the next thing. A gas station a few minutes up the road, a big bright forecourt, pumps, a little shop, cars coming and going. I pulled in, and as I was looking for a spot, I clocked, in the mirror, a truck turning in behind me. No reason to think anything of it. It's a gas station. Trucks turn into gas stations. I parked off to the side, away from the pumps, to check my phone for a second. And the truck did not go to a pump. It came across the lot, toward me. And it pulled in, not into a space, it pulled in nose first right across the front of my car, close at an angle, so that its body was between my front bumper and the lane out. Blocking me, a truck parked like a gate, right where I'd have to drive to leave. And the man who got out of it was the man from the door, the one I'd forgotten. He'd followed me, from that store, up that road, into this lot, in full daylight the whole way, and I never saw him do it because you don't watch for a tail at 4 in the afternoon on a road full of cars. He got out, and he walked up to my window, and he knocked on the glass, calm, like he knew me. "Roll down your window," he said, not yelling, reasonable. I just want to talk to you, roll it down. And I want to tell you the forecourt was not empty. There were cars at the pumps. There was a person inside the shop behind the glass. It was bright, it was loud with road noise, and a man was standing at my locked door telling me to open it. And from 10 feet away, it looked like nothing. 2 people talking by a car. I shook my head. I didn't open it. I said through the glass, "No, go away, leave me alone." And he didn't get angry. That's the part nobody understands until I describe his face. He didn't rage. He got firmer, more patient, like a man dealing with a door that's stuck. He pulled the handle. It was locked. He pulled it again. He put his hand flat on the glass and pushed, testing it, feeling the car for a way in. And I did the math, fast, sitting there. His truck was across my front end. I could not pull forward. I'd have had to reverse, crank the wheel, get around him, seconds, with him right at my door. I had my phone in my hand. I hadn't hit send yet. Because the thing about a bright public lot is you keep thinking someone will just do something, that you don't have to be the one, that the daylight will handle it. Nobody at the pumps moved. To them, it wasn't happening. He banged on the window with the side of his fist. Hard. The whole door shook. "Open the door!" And I screamed at him to get away, and I leaned on the horn. One long blast, then another. The loudest thing I had. The thing that's supposed to make a crowd turn. And people glanced. A couple of heads at the pumps turned and then looked away. Because a honking car and a guy at a window is a fender bender, a fight, a nothing, not their business. And he stopped banging. He stood up straight, and for 1 second I thought the horn had worked, that he was giving up, that he was going to leave. He looked at me through the glass, flat, deciding, and then he turned around and he walked away from my car, back across the forecourt, toward his truck. And I actually felt relief for about 2 seconds before I understood what walking back to his truck meant. He wasn't leaving. He opened the driver's door of his truck and he leaned in, unhurried, the way you reach into a vehicle for something you know exactly where it is. And in a bright gas station lot, in the middle of the afternoon, with cars at the pumps and a clerk behind the glass, a man who had just been hammering on my window with his fist calmly went back to his truck to get a better tool. He didn't run to the truck, he walked. A small figure way over there in the sun, unhurried, crossing the forecourt to his truck, while I sat there and watched him take his time. I was reversing before he reached it. I threw it in reverse and cranked the wheel to get around his blocking truck. And there wasn't room, not cleanly. I had to cut it, stop, pull forward an inch, reverse again, this tiny, desperate 3-point turn in the half second I had, heart going so hard I couldn't hear the engine. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw him straighten up out of his truck and turn back toward me with something in his hand. A hammer, a regular hammer, the kind that lives in everyone's truck, and he was walking back to my car with it down at his side. Not raised, not wild, just carried, the way you carry a thing you're about to use. And he wasn't hurrying even now, because he could see I was boxed in, because the math still said he had time, and he came back across that bright lot to break the one piece of glass between us. He got to my window and he lifted it, the hammer, up. And he said, and this is the last thing he said, and I'll hear it forever, "Just open the door." Like the hammer was reasonable, like I was making him do this, and all I had to do to make it stop was open the door and get out of the car. In a parking lot, in daylight, with a man holding a hammer. And I got my car moving. I don't fully remember how I got out of the spot. I remember the front of my car scraping past the corner of his truck. I remember the wheel hard over and the tires chirping and a horn somewhere. I remember the hammer coming down, not through the window, off the back of the car. A flat, hard bang on the metal as I pulled away. And then I was in the lane. And then I was on the road, doing 50 out of a gas station, shaking so hard I could barely steer. I watched the mirror the whole way. I waited for the truck, and it didn't come. He didn't chase me. He just let me go once the door he wanted was moving at 50 miles an hour. I drove to somewhere crowded and bright and sat in the middle of it and shook for a long time. I don't have a plate. I was 3-point turning for my life. I never got it. I didn't get a clear look that I could give anyone. Backlit, a cap, the sun behind him the whole time. Nothing came of it. Nothing resolved. There's no part of this where he gets caught. There's just the part where I got the car moving in time. I sat in that crowded lot for a long time before I could drive, watching all the ordinary people walk past in the sun. And I kept thinking how not one of them had any idea what had almost happened 10 feet from where they were standing. That's the part I carry, not the hammer. The fact that it was bright and it was busy and I was still completely on my own. So I lock my doors now, the instant I sit down, in the dark and in broad daylight, and let's never meet. 3 errands. A man who walked me to my own car and wanted to drive me the last 200 feet. A man with an empty cart whose truck was parked on the wrong side of the store. And a man who boxed my car in the middle of the afternoon and walked back to his truck for a hammer. All of it in full daylight, all of it in a crowd. None of it stopped by either one. So before you close the tab, ask yourself the quiet question. Of those 3, the ride to your car, the empty cart, the calm walk back for the hammer, which would you least want to be standing in front of? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe so the next one reaches you before he does. And the next time you're loading the trunk in the sun and someone a little too helpful falls in beside you, notice whether his cart is empty. Notice where his truck is pointed.